one Mother's Day, I was by my tree. We call it Jacob's tree. It's a tree we planted when we lost Jacob. Our friends and a family got together and bought this tree, and we planted it in a public place near the beach where we live. And on Mother's Day, I've always gone down and planted a garden for him. And one year, I was standing there planting for Jacob, and an old lady came up to me, and she asked me what I was doing and why I was planting the flowers, and I told her the story of my baby. And she just broke down and wept, and she said she had had 11 children, but she had lost one baby. And we sat down, we've got a bench down there, and we sat down together, and she talked to me about her baby that she'd lost 30, 40, 50 years ago. I mean, she was a very old lady. And there was just this wonderful feeling between us. And I think that was one of the moments I first realized where I'd been given something through this that was really meaningful. What I struggle with still is a feeling that the world outside doesn't understand how profoundly changed I've been since it happened, and my husband as well. That there was a before and an after, and it's like this seminal event in our lives.
She has, I think, given me a greater appreciation for just life in general. I don't think you really realize, well, I didn't realize how fragile life was.
Anytime everything goes perfectly with a birth, it's a miracle. And never, ever take that for granted. That's something I had to learn the hard way, but I think you realize it, you just don't live it. And now I've lived it, so I really appreciate it.
Going through a loss has made us stronger, made me stronger. So there's nothing, if I were to lose my house or lose my job, nothing would make me go down. Emotionally, I know I could survive. If I could survive the loss of my two girls, I could survive anything.
Victoria was my second child. She was born at 37 weeks gestation. She was an emergency cesarean. And we had gone to the hospital because we had noticed a lack of movement. And about 2 days prior, I had been to the doctors, and I was reassured that when you're further along, there's a lot less movement, and that she was fine. And then something just instinctively told me 2 days later, I said, something's not fine. So we went, and she was not moving so much, but still okay, still alive. And then they decided to perform an emergency cesarean, and she just lived 2 hours in the hospital, and that's as long as we had her. Very shocking. You're in disbelief, and you don't want to accept it. And you never imagine it happening to you, especially at that stage of your pregnancy. You never hear about it happening. So it was, and to be honest, it felt really ripped off. Yeah, it was hard.
In 2004, we had Gina, who passed away at 24 weeks. We did an interruption with a pregnancy. We found out that she had hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Her chance of survival was 2%. So just weighing our decisions, we had decided that would be best for her to do the interruption, and we literally had 2 days to do it. You know, we went in thinking everything, we knew what was going to happen, but once we delivered, we were both like, wow. We didn't realize it was an actual baby, because we got in, she was moving, everything was fine, and then we actually got to hold her. We had a naming ceremony for her. I think the day after, we went to the funeral home, and then we came to find out that in the East Indian culture, we don't cremate a baby until they're at the age of 4, a child. So that to us was brand new, and to our family, because no one knew. So we actually had to we've never buried anyone before. So we went and chose her lot, and just choosing her stone, everything was just heart-wrenching. Vic and I did it ourselves. We didn't ask our parents to come with us. And then I came to find out that I couldn't be at the funeral site for the East Indian culture. And for me, that was, I needed to say goodbye. And Vic was always okay with everything up until that moment, because he had to put her into the ground. And that's when it really touched Vic.
Juliet was born with a severe heart defect, truncus arteriosus. Basically, there's no aorta. So we didn't know until she was born. She was born a beautiful, healthy girl, no indication of any issue until about 12 hours later. And she had surgery on day 3 and had a tough time with surgery, but we came home November the 11th, and she was doing quite well. I mean, there were issues with medications, 7 medications 3 times a day, but we were really starting to get into the groove of it all. And then 2 days before she passed away, she just got a bad cold. And we just kind of had one of those long days in Emerge where she was just, we were a little bit ignored, and she was, you know, just not a great day. And by the time we got up to cardiology, within an hour, she had a cardiac arrest and passed away. And so as much as she had this condition and she would have needed surgeries later on, we really thought we had her. Yeah, so it was horrible, absolutely horrible.
Jacob's my 3rd child. I have a son, Michael, and a daughter, Tiana. Jacob was the 3rd baby. I subsequently had another little girl. Through the pregnancy with Jacob, I had absolutely no idea anything was wrong, could go wrong. It was a complete shock to me when I found out during an ultrasound that there was no heartbeat. And I was 39 weeks pregnant, so I was full term. And I was looking forward to another beautiful home birth like I'd had with Tiana. And I got the news at the hospital and was told that I could deliver him that night, or I could wait. I couldn't imagine waiting once I was given that news. So we packed up and went to the hospital and started the labor. And he was born about 6 hours later. And we pretty much knew as soon as he was born that it was because of a cord accident. It wasn't a knot, but he had the cord wrapped so tightly around his neck that there were lesions, red lesions left on his neck. So although we did an autopsy, I think my husband and I both realized we had an answer and a reason for his death right away.
I was fortunate. I had a very courteous staff on my floor, very respectful, and only one mistake where someone walked in and said, "Where's the baby?" So, but it was, all in all, the best experience it could have been, given what it was. People were very respectful, and I was moved to a floor that didn't have a lot of crying babies for me to hear.
There were people panicking all around saying, you know, why don't you have a cesarean and let them give you drugs? And I didn't want that. And I've always felt like I was able to enjoy the moment, even knowing that he wasn't alive anymore and that I wasn't going to get to take him home. there's something in looking back on the story of his birth that's always given me a wonderful, peaceful feeling.
I didn't want something to numb the pain. I wanted to feel what I was feeling and not wake up and be confused. So I wanted to be present. And I found falling asleep at the hospital was the worst part, because every time you woke up, you wanted it to be a dream. So waking up was hard for a long time. Yeah, didn't want to fall asleep very much.
We kind of brushed it under the rug. Okay, move on. The autopsy results came back, everything was fine. And then I think 2 months later we found out we're pregnant again. So we're like, yes, this is great. We're getting a second chance. I remember the day, it was inventory day, so I was on my feet all day. And I had made a comment to one of my colleagues that I had mentioned I was pregnant. I'm like, it feels like the baby's coming out. And she's like, yeah, you feel like that all the time, like, because they kick so much. I didn't know that back pains at that time were a sign of labor. About midnight it was severe, and we had called 911, and the doctor said, you're in labor. So that was a shock. So we called my mom, and she did some prayers. You know, there's no way that this can happen right now. So we delivered the baby, and I knew at that time, the way he had looked at the nurse, something was wrong. So they immediately took the baby. We didn't see her. The doctor had said that she started brain hemorrhaging. So we got to hold her. We had named her. Her name was Dia. She was the exact same weight as her sister. And our family thought it was weird that we actually named our babies. But to us, that was just the way we could connect with them. This time around, I think it hit us really hard because it was like, okay, you know what? The first time we understood. The second time around, we're like, wow. You would think that the second time around, you know what? You'd come home happy.
Leaving the hospital was hard, and I don't know any way to make that easier. It's the hardest thing, leaving empty-handed. But they did put a butterfly on the door to let everyone know our experience, so I think that gave everyone an awareness. That was very helpful. But the leaving is the worst part, and I don't, like I said, there's nothing you can really do to make that better.
This time around, we had nothing to do with getting the funeral arrangements done for the baby. It was too hard for Vic and I both. So our parents did it. Vic and I actually didn't even go to the funeral. But we did request that both of them be buried side by side, and they were. So that in itself was nice for us to know that they were together.
The hardest moment for me was going home the next day without my baby. I think that was when it really hit me.
There's so many people around you that have gone through the same thing, but no one talks about it. And I think that's the hardest thing, that no one wants to talk about it or no one knows what to say.
Maybe just someone who had been involved in your hospital care follow up and phone you, see how you're doing. We reached out a lot on our own to the resources that were in the hospital kit, but you don't tend to open those right away. You're kind of lost. So we didn't, it took us a while to find some available help that we could reach out to.
I was in a state of shock. Vic was actually dealing with it a little bit better, but he had his own way of dealing with it. It really brought us two closer together. We were only married for 1.5 years when all this happened.
And I think when we lose our children, we need to find some way of making it meaningful in our lives, because we feel lost and we feel devastated. And I think sometimes we feel very separate, and there's a kind of loneliness because so often I think people don't understand the depth of that loss. Perhaps because they didn't know the people, they didn't lose someone they didn't know. They didn't know the person they lost. And I think it's hard to explain to people how deep the pain is and how deep the loss is.
We did a lot of soul searching. So Vic actually reverted back to faith and God, and I went the other way because I just didn't think it was fair.
I can't speak for everybody. I really think we experience this all in a different way, but you know, if you couldn't cry out that kind of pain, it would be so hard. I think I feel like I've had to put it out in tears, in writing, in words, in feelings, so that I can go to the other place of that warm, quiet place, you know, the feeling of love. And if I weren't able to really feel the pain, I don't think I could do the other.
I actually, much to my surprise, I didn't get over it, but I accepted it a lot quicker than I anticipated I would. And that, I think, was mainly because of the counseling that we took the second time around. The first time we just sort of, I guess, swept it underneath the rug. But then the second time, it brought out all the emotions from the first pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So just talking about it to anyone who would listen really, really helped. Because if someone actually asked me, you know, how are you? Well, you're going to ask, or you're going to really hear how I am. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say I'm good.
I had a really good support, so I was fortunate. My mother and my sister, and my immediate family, my husband and my older son really helped me get through it. And it took a lot of time and a lot of grieving, a lot of talking it out.
When you have a spouse that you can talk to, it makes it easier. Like, I've ran into people that have no one to talk to whatsoever because they just don't get it.
I have two amazing sisters that are, you know, they're always there for me no matter what. And they supported me at that time, or us, because there was a fair bit of care that was required for Juliet. It was a huge loss to them as well.
I found that saying nothing at all was probably the worst experience after our loss, when people said nothing. Even other people's loss, whether it be work or their spouse or grandparents, I realized I was guilty too of not knowing what to say, so sometimes I'd say nothing. And I look back now and I realized that was the only way I knew then, but now I know better. So I make sure that I say something and let people know that I don't have the words to say, but I'm thinking of them. Something simple like that.
A simple "I'm sorry" would have sufficed. A lot of people didn't think that, you know, that they were babies because they didn't live full term. So just a simple, you know what, I'm sorry, goes a long way. Whether you mean it or not, I'm sorry means that you actually recognize that there was a loss and you give me your condolences in some form. Because we didn't get that. With family we did, but with friends, we lost a lot of friends because there was no acknowledgement. We gained a lot of friends. Just acknowledgement.
If there are no answers, there's nothing anybody's going to be able to say that will make it better, and there will be no phrase that will, like, well, you're young, you can have another baby. It's not going to give you the peace to turn it all around.
I think that's something that we learn going through this, that I can't fix you in your pain, I can't fix you in your grief. And nobody could have fixed me, but they could have allowed me to be there without constantly reminding me that I had 2 children at home, or that I was going to have another child, or not.
I mean, there was times when people told us, oh, you've got 2 girls, you can forget about what happened now. It's not something you always forget about because they were your girls. Regardless, what stage in your pregnancy you were, you held them. They were dear to your heart. You've lost all of the dreams that you were looking forward to. So, and people just were like, you know what, it's a miscarriage, it's a loss. You have 2 girls, it's okay. It's not okay. Their names slip out of our mouth sometimes when we're calling Jaya or Arya. It happens, and people are like, you know what, it's done with. It's been, 2-3 years now, move on. And I don't think anyone understands you'll never move on. They're part of your life.
As you're going along with life and you see your other kids progress and meet different milestones or, different events. I always feel very sad at my other kids' birthdays and my birthday and my husband's birthday. Those events, you just can't help feel that she's missing from the celebration. So I find that celebration times are hard, even though you would never know it. But I find my heart is extra sore because you just would like that person there.
Maybe the most difficult thing is feeling like he was ripped off. He missed out on his life here. He missed out on being a child.
She'll be 13 in October. So 13 is the last year of grade school. She'd make her confirmation. So all the things that she would have been doing, I find I can't help but think about, that she's never going to do that. She's never going to. I think about what she would look like. And I sort of think she'd look like my mother-in-law. So so I find those are the hard things, and they're kind of daily, like they're daily hardships, right? When you're happy, it's great to be happy, but you can't help but feel like you would like her to complete that too, complete the happiness.
You feel like a part of you's missing. She's there, but she's not there. So, and I think the better people in my life understand that, and don't forget it. So that's helpful, actually. Yeah, because they count her, and she mattered, and they don't. It's not about them feeling uncomfortable talking about it. It's about making me feel comfortable, and those are the people that have helped us really tremendously, I guess. Yeah, they have acknowledged her and, just continued to remember her as a part of our family.
This is a family portrait at Christmas that Michael created just months after we lost Jacob. So he would have been about 5. And he would have been asked to draw the family. So at the time, it was Michael and his sister Tiana and Jacob. So here we are. He's got little Jacob floating near the Christmas tree. He's just a little head and 2 little sticks for legs and a little stick for arms. But I just thought it was so touching that he drew him in there.
This is a picture of Juliet and my daughter Nicola, who is 15 now. She was just over 3 when Juliet passed away. She has this picture on her desk along with Juliet's special teddy bear toy that goes on every trip with Nicola. And I didn't give her the picture. She found it and put it on her desk. And same thing with the teddy bear. She took the teddy bear and it's on her bed. And as I said, it travels everywhere with her. And I just find that remarkable that she has that connection with her sister.
Tiana, August 9th. This would be just weeks after we lost him. This is Jacob walking on the beach and the wind is blowing his hair. I don't know if you can see his hair, but if that doesn't bring a smile to your face.
Her brother says some funny stories. We went to visit her at the cemetery, and it was raining out, and he slipped in the mud, and he was soaked and, fully full of mud. And he said, "Oh, I bet you Victoria will be laughing right now seeing me." I said, "Yeah, I bet you should be laughing at you." We try to talk about her, make it normal, because I think some people don't want to talk about it, but we make it as normal as it can be, because for us it's normal.
When I lost Jacob, having 2 small children at home was exhausting, and it took every ounce of energy you had just to look after them, to take care of their physical needs and their emotional needs. And yet, at the same time, they save you because they're filled with laughter and they're filled with questions, and they keep you grounded.
Adrian was 5 going on 6 at the time, and Nicola was just turned 3. And because Juliet required a fair bit of care at home, they were very much a part of it because, they had to be to, for us to get through this. So it was a loss for them, even though they were young. It was very severe for them as well.
Michael and Tiana have both said that they remember the day we came back from the hospital, and they were sitting in the back garden. We'd called in Aunt Jackie to take care of things because we decided not to invite them to the hospital. For better or worse, they've actually since then said that they wished we had asked them.
As a parent, well, as an adult, you can say, okay, well, this is my lot in life, and, I can deal with this. I don't like it. But to see your children suffer is worse, because you just don't want them to have to endure that at a young age, not really realizing why this all happened.
Now I realize that they would have processed it in their own way. I don't think I did them justice in understanding how much they took from that grief experience.
On the upside with children, they have an amazing ability to accept really what's given to them. And, when you tell them that she's not in any pain and she's happy and she's in heaven, and we have a very strong faith that we've instilled in our kids. And so, I have to say that's the one thing about kids. It's like Juliet's in heaven. So they were always very positive. So that was a great influence on my husband and I, to have that sort of acceptance instead of always looking back and saying, why?
So Saskia was our little miracle who was born exactly a year after we lost Jacob. I think it was in kindergarten, they were asked to just do a portrait of their family. And sure enough, because we talk about him, and she's trying to figure out her place in this family of 4, and she's the last one, she puts Jacob in her little family portrait. And there he is in the right birth order. So there's Daddy and Mommy, and there's Big Brother Michael, and there's Big Sister Tiana, and then Jacob, I guess about the size he would be. He's bigger than her. So she's imagined him growing up as a boy. And this is little Saskia with her green eyes, the last child. She's clearly imagined him as a boy. And I almost always talk about him as my baby, because to me that's the lasting image. But she has her own way of creating the story, which I think is wonderful.
I don't think Nicola would mind if I told you that every once in a while I've found a little letter to Juliet saying, you're my sister, because she has 2 brothers, and of course brothers are hard on sisters, right? So she writes little letters every once in a while to Juliet saying, I wish you were here, and we could be, going against the boys. And
Our son, just last week, he occasionally likes to go through, we have a little memory box of Victoria's things, a little toy, and the clothing she wore in the hospital, and the blanket. And Jack had asked if he could sleep with the blanket. And I said, yeah, I'm fine with that. I said, just ask Daddy what he thinks. And of course he said, what does your mother think? And I said, I'm fine with it. I think Victoria will be fine sharing her blanket with you. So he slept with the pink blanket, yeah.
I think no matter what, you fight against this. You don't want your child to have died. So in your heart, you're fighting against what has already happened. Whereas the kids are open to it. They accept, and they don't forget. They incorporate it into their future life.
This is a picture that the social worker had taken at the hospital, and it was actually with the chaplain having come to my hospital room and show me the pictures that I felt brave enough to say, okay, I want to see her. And she brought her to me after I'd seen the photos. So had I not had these photos, yeah.
This folder was given to us after she passed away. A regular thing for the, unfortunately for the children that pass away, and it's got, it's got a few things like her little hat she was wearing, and there's medicine on it, and that will be forever. And beautiful pictures, absolutely beautiful pictures of her after she had passed away. And I know, some people might find it a little somber or, spooky to have pictures of somebody who's passed away. But, it's part of her. It's part of her history. I see beauty in that. I do.
And she looks like an angel to us. She looked very much like her brother Jack, her older brother, identical to Jack. So that's what we tell Jack. She looked a lot like you. Yeah. Now I keep it beside my bed, and I have one on the main floor of my house. And if people aren't comfortable with it, then it doesn't matter to me. It's there, and that's part of our family, so we keep it out.
I've always kept everything that I received from the hospital in a box beside on my night table. No one's ever, my mom's seen it before, but she's never questioned me because she knows what's in there. So we just like to leave things the way they are.
We have a chest in front of our bed that we had made, and it's full of her toys and clothes and letters, autopsy report, just everything about her. When we moved into this house we're in now, that came in my car, and it was never going to be alone. It's always with us. But I feel, even though I know she's, it's just some physical things that were hers, it does give me that sense of, validation that she was here. This is her stuff. This is her place in the house. And I want her to have a place in our house, wherever we are, just like the other kids do.
To us, we see them as souls. So we have 2 butterflies normally on our Christmas tree, but we just leave the butterflies in one of our spare rooms. And it's just a constant memory that they're there.
At the cottage, we have a boat, and we name the boat Jacob's Ladder. So every time I go to the cottage, every time I get in the boat, I see Jacob's name, and of course I think about him. So I think those are things we do for ourselves that are positive and feel great. That feels great when I see his name. And I think that's what people don't understand, that we want to say their names. That's what we want. I think more than anything, we want their names recognized.
I'm an avid Disney collector, so for all of us, I have all of our names in the Disney characters. So for Gina and Dia, I had just got their initials, where I leave at the front of our house. No one's ever asked us what does the J and a D stand for, because it's not our initials. But I think everyone understands, because everyone knows that we had named our girls.
My husband had this bracelet when our older son was born, Jack, and after Victoria was born, we got one with Victoria's name and her birthday. And then our latest addition is another little boy, Riley. It doesn't bother me if people see and ask. We've just made it such a part of our life that we don't hide and we talk about openly.
We have pictures of her around, and we always celebrate her birthday. I want to say celebrate her death day. We always go to church and have a special mass said for her on her death day, as we do on her birthday as well. But for me, it's a celebration of her life, and that's why I do celebrate her death day as well. So these are days attributed to her, and it's one of those kind of shouted down the mountain. She was alive. She was a little life, but it was a fantastic life, and she did a lot for all of us.
As a family, we connect with him through ritual by going back to the place in the beach, in this park near the lake, where we held his memorial service and we released white balloons. We do that on his birthday. We gather, my husband and I and our children. And we send little poems up to him and we talk to him.
We yearly have an anniversary for them where we just light a candle. We don't discuss it with anyone, our parents, or just between us and our daughters.
We obviously celebrate her birthday, and my husband and I are very different the way we want to celebrate hers. So that's a little bit hard, but we've come to accept it. He would rather be alone and have some quiet and do something special, whereas I would rather bake a cake for my 2 boys and sing happy birthday, and we're just opposite when it comes to that, but we can respect each other's differences. And this past anniversary of her birth, we were actually not together, and it was okay. I don't put too many expectations on myself. If I make it to the cemetery to celebrate her, then that's great. But I don't have to be there to celebrate her. I feel like she's with me all the time. So I'll just talk to her, or I'll write in a journal, or I have her picture beside my bed, so she's there.
I talk to her. You know, I pray. I use a lot of prayer. I just stare at her picture and she talks to me through her eyes. I mean, she had amazing eyes and used to give us messages when she was alive. I mean, I do things like I work at bereaved families for her. It's like taking another kid to a soccer game. That's what I do for her. So I do like to do things with her in mind. I go to the cemetery, you know, and keep that up, and I have that looking, I think, quite pretty. And I don't really feel I have to go there, though, to talk to her or to feel, you know, she's with us, she's in our house.
And for my family, for me also, but very much for my kids, there's a symbol of the monarch butterfly. It's in my poem. And because it was July and there are many butterflies, he's there in this symbol of the butterfly all the time. So around his birthday, we see them everywhere. And you know, I have this amazing image of my other kids sort of running around saying, Jacob, 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 Jacob in the back garden. And it's wonderful because he's so present in that symbol at that particular time of year when we remember him.
If I, you know, see 2 pennies on the ground, that's a constant reminder that they're both there. We had 2 birds nestled in our front porch. And it was only 2 birds that we've ever seen. So to both of us, that was like, wow, that's just a sign that our girls are there. We always saw things in pairs. So to us, that was just, you know, we're being watched over.
When she was sick in the hospital, I was always praying. My mom had given me this little prayer card to St. Teresa. And it's the St. Teresa, the little flower. And there's like a pink rose always associated with. And you wouldn't believe how every once in a while, like, I'll just get a pink rose somewhere, you know, at my door. One day somebody came and delivered like a pink rose, and it was the kid across the street and came and said, oh, you know, we found this and, you know, it must be yours or whatever. And just like little things like that where, and I do think of them as signs.
And Aria, she only does everything in 2s. Like she wears 2 ponytails, she does, you know, 2 forks when she's eating, 2 spoons. So we find that very unique, and it could be just her, but to us it's like maybe that's just a sign that she, you know, has some sort of connection with her sisters. Like we mentioned it to her, she just looks at us. But I guess for me, my husband, that's just a way we can let her know that she has 2 sisters watching over her.
I think it's natural for a mom to want to have some ongoing relationship, physical relationship with their child. And when you can't do that anymore in the caring for making meals or, you know, just doing the day-to-day things, that when you do get a little physical sign, that, you know, it just continues that relationship.
The writing of poetry has been one of the things that's given me a voice and helped me express, you know, at the beginning, the incredible ripping pain of the grief, but years later now, because this happened almost 10 years ago, it's still a way for me to be with him and almost commune with him through writing. So yeah, I'd love to read this. Born still, but still born, scooped up from the deep sea of love that surges from a mother's belly, your silent, slippery entry into this world, the gentle contractions that eased you out of the darkness of your comfort womb into the darkness of your parents' grief. These precious moments embedded in my mind like the smooth touch of a perfect stone buried in the wet sand. I dig gently with my fingers to uncover the tender and peaceful memory of your beautiful birth. Your image floats in my mind like the monarch butterfly who carries the ancient knowledge of a journey home in the path of his ancestors. You know me, and I understand the message you are leaving me. Let the violent gusts topple me over in my sorrow. Let me drop out of the sky. So long as I remember you, so long as you remind me, I will find my way again. So that helps. I know I'm crying, but it helps to express something that's still there 10 years later.
It's comforting to have her in my life. It's made me feel like I can handle a lot more that's tossed my way, and that I'm a survivor. So it's comforting in an odd way.
Still difficult. It will never be something that I can feel at peace with. I certainly have a lovely life, and I have a very happy life, and I'm so thankful for my 3 children and my husband. I still have that inside of me that I miss her daily.
I wish that everyone could understand or experience how much pain can transform into love. It's this experience of going so deep into your soul and your human emotions. I can't imagine having gone further down, and so you've gone there, and now you can explore, you can rise up to a different place. I can't say that I don't still feel the very deep pain, because it's there, and it's sort of hovering underneath me all the time. But at the same time, there's this new part of me that I discovered that I love feeling.
I had comments from people saying, "Oh, I want the old Andrea back." And I said, "She's not coming back." I said, "This is me now. I've changed, I've grown. And I lost a piece of myself, but I'm kind of new and improved, even though it's taken a little bit of beating."
You learn to live a different norm. You're grateful. I think we appreciate life more. We're very grateful for what we have. We're grateful for the girls that we have, and just for everything around us.
We are less judgmental of people now. We're a little more patient, a little more tolerant, and just take it day by day, not in such a rush, and really have a different appreciation on life.
Appreciation of life, appreciation of people as they are, especially with my children. We want them to reach their full potential, but we try not to get hung up on the things and the trappings of, let's face it, our life today.
We were kind of materialistic. I think after the losses, we're just, we're very, very simple. We don't splurge. We just, we live life to the fullest. We find that we care about each other a lot more and have more respect for each other. And we just want to give back to those that helped us. So if we can help anyone else, that's what we try and do.
The other thing is, I think I'm much more sympathetic, empathetic to people that are experiencing some sort of loss or illness, or I really don't mind to take the time and talk to someone who's just had to put their dog down, or whatever their sadness is. It's real and it's true, and if I can help, I'm happy to help. And that's why, in some respects, I always say her life was so positive. As much as I wish she was with us today, I think she has done very well by her mom and dad. I really do. Yeah.
The thing that happened to me through losing my baby was a kind of explosion in my heart. And the image I have is, I can't remember the word for it, but in films when you see a flower explode in a millisecond, something that takes a long time, there was this kind of explosion of love. And I feel it most when I'm doing my volunteer work with bereaved families. I feel a kind of human connection with other parents who've lost babies, and there's this incredible feeling of love for them, even though we're so different. We come together in this room and 10 of us have a similar experience, but our lives are different, we're different people, and yet there's this powerful connection.
We've had a lot of friends that are trying to get pregnant that have had miscarriages on the first trimester. They know that we went through something, so they can actually come talk to us, which is nice. You know, just to let it out and cry.
When I had seen people tell their story and be okay, whether it was a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, that instilled a lot of hope in me, and I wanted to do that for other people. I had not done that much volunteering before, and I was also somewhat a closed person with people I don't know. So in that respect, I kind of learned how to take down the walls and just be vulnerable and just let people see where I had been and where I was, and sharing my experience with them. To me, it helps her live on. It helps Victoria live on. And not that there, I don't know if there's reason to what happened, but I somehow think I'm on the journey I should be on. So somehow I'm helping someone that really needs me to be there for them.
I think in our culture, there's this incredible discomfort around death, and a huge lack of understanding around the death of a baby. I always think our case is a little bit special. When a baby is born, still nobody knows our babies. Nobody has any memories of that baby except us. And so the ability to just be with it, with other people who've lost, feels like a huge gift to me. A huge gift to me.
It was a remarkable little life, and that's not the end of it. That's not the end of it.